Welcome to a wonderful Ranger auto video. So we got an 06 Silverado here. It's been here for almost a month. Had some problems with it. I think we're getting it close to being done. Been trying to get a good video for you guys to show you what we've been doing to it. And so here we go again. All right, so earlier today we changed the switch and found out that the switch is not the problem. So we need to take the switch back out, put the original switch back in it. So I'm going to show you how to change your switch. It's not that bad actually. The way that I'm going to do it, it'll probably help you out a whole lot easier than if you were to try to do it some other crazy way. So first thing we need to do is we got our battery unhooked. Now, if you're in a hurry and you gotta get this done really quickly, you can hook a jumper wire between the positive and negative terminals off the battery, hook them to themselves for about a minute, or you can leave it connected for the entire job. And what that does is that drains the backup power out of the capacitors. Also, since this vehicle is getting an airbag module replacement, the airbag module is unplugged. So either way, I don't think we have to worry about the bag going off, because we gotta pull the bag in order to get this job done. So step one is we got to get the airbag out. Okay, to get the airbag out, there's a little pinhole here on the side where my screwdriver is. You push in here and you can pull the airbag back. You gotta do that on both sides. There's one on each side. And you wanna grab and pull it out, and then take it and rotate it back like this. Rotate it back so that you can get to these clips. These clips are push and pull, so you gotta push in on the tab and lift up. Take them right out. Like that. Set your airbag away from the area, face up. All right, once you get the airbag out, you got a 21mm nut you need to take off. So let's get our socket here. We're going to use Big Bertha here. You can use a regular ratchet if you have one. You don't really need to go this extreme with it, but take your socket, take your knee, put it up against the steering wheel, give you some sort of, undo it this way. Also, if you have an impact, like a battery powered impact or an air gun, you can zip it off that way too. Whichever way works for you. We'll take our nut off, and then I'll show you how you get the horn button out. You got to move the horn button. Yeah, this is a special nut. You can see where it's flat on each side. Now you got to be careful that you don't do that too many times, because you'll eventually have to replace that nut because it's a special nut. Let me show you about the horn. All right, you see this tab right here? That's your horn button. You got to push in, rotate it to the left, pull it straight out. See, that's what it looks like on the end of it. All right, now you got the horn button removed. We'll set you back over here. You want to grasp the steering wheel and just kind of rock it back and forth till it comes off. And then once it comes off, feed it out this way. Now, something I need to make note of is this is a non-cruise control truck. If it had cruise control, of course, you would have some extra wiring to deal with. Also, the truck doesn't have the screws in the bottom. It's missing it. So you'd have 2 screws to take out in the bottom, and then you got to pull this lower cover off. You do have to pull this out. That's your tilt wheel, if you have tilt wheel. If not, then that spot there will have a cover plate over it. So then you want to grab a hold of your piece here, slide it down, and then you want to lift up. Well, you want to pull the bottom down, and get it out of the way. Now, this does have some hooks you got to deal with, so you want to make sure you get those done. And pick this piece up. Make sure you unsnap it. Lift up and away. Also, you have a rubber right here that you have to put back in here when you're done. So now that we got that off, you've got two T25s you got to take out. And I'll bring you in so you can see those. You got a T25 down here and a T25 right there. Those have to come out. So we will get those out. Okay, we got our socket right here. And take out the bottom one first. Now you can take them out in any order. I just prefer to do the bottom. And you'll see why here in a minute. So we'll unscrew our retaining screws here. Now these might be, if this is the first time you're replacing your switch and you're confirmed that it is the switch causing the problem, these bolts might be a little hard to get out because they might have Loctite on them. Set that down there on the bottom, and then I'll show you how this hooks up here in just a second. Alright, so then we want to come up here and we want to take that one loose. Now this requires two hands, so I'm going to put you back on the pod. And then as soon as I take you off the pod again, I'll show you what it looks like, what you're putting your switch onto. So you want to hold your switch with one hand, unscrew the upper screw with the other hand. Set that on the ground. Pick up, pull off. You've got, I'll show it to you in a second here after I get these clips out. All right, your top clip, you got a little thumb piece there you can put your thumb against. Take the screwdriver that you used to take the airbag out with, and you can get it on the side, lift up, and then push out like that. That's how you get the switch loose. Then you got this front one here on the front here. You got to do the same thing on that one. Pick it up, pull it out. There you go, like that. Rotate this one back towards you. Do the same thing on this one. Pick it up. Sometimes they'll fall out, and if they fall out, that's great. That's why you have that little retainer right there. Now let me show you what you're doing here on this switch. Okay, your switch, that's your little brass that rides up against your ring back here. And if you had cruise control, this would be important. You want to look at the bottom of it. You see this recessed area? That hooks into this top area here on the steering column. So when you lock this in, it's supposed to lock down on top of it. So, of course, you want to compare your switches. You want to make sure that the switches are the same. So this is the original switch that came in the truck. It was suspected to be bad, but it is not bad. What's wrong with the truck is it's got high speed all the time and you can't park the wipers. So it's the wiper module, and I have one on order. It'll be here shortly, and then we can do a video showing you how to change that out. So we'll hook our connectors back up. Make sure that alignment line goes back in that spot right there, and then you want to push that down like that. It's easier to put these on before you put it on the vehicle. If you try to put them on after you got it connected, you're going to have a little bit of a problem. So set it back down on top, lock it back down. All right, now your hole is not going to line up right away. So what you need to do is put top screw in first, because we're doing reverse of operations. If you took the bottom screw out first, you put the bottom screw in. Make sure not to cross thread it because it'll try to cross thread. It's fine thread screws, so you want to make sure you don't cross thread it. And then we got to grab our other screw, which is down here. If it's got grease on it, it's fine because of that brass pin that rides across that back there. So if you want to wipe off the grease, you can. It's not going to make any difference. Where it sits, it's not going to make a whole lot of issues. Set your screw back through the hole there and tighten it back down. Tighten your hardware down. Make sure it's nice and tight. Don't tighten up too tight, you'll crack the plastic. You just want it snug. Alright. We're ready to put our covers back on. So find our cover. This one looks like it's got some problems, so we're going to try to straighten it out best we can. Alright, take your boot, pull your boot back. We'll put your boot in here in a minute. We got to get this top panel locked in. Now as soon as you get this panel locked down, which it locked down pretty easily, take your boot for your shifter and start feeding it into the groove over here. Let me show you the groove I'm talking about here. You have, on this side of your cover, you have a groove over here that this fits into. You want to try to get that fed in there the best you can before putting the bottom on it. And you'll know when it's right because everything will sit properly. So I'll mess with that and then I'll show you how to get the bottom on. Okay, that's what it should look like. Get your top view here. When you got your shifter put in, that's what it should look like. If you have to pick this up and then feed that in underneath it, you can do that. That's how I got it on there. So now we're nice and set and level and everything looks good. So now we gotta get the bottom on. Now remember, if you have screws, make sure you put your screws back in. This one does not, so we have to be careful. Now you'll see this has got some connecting hooks on the back. This one's kind of screwed up a little bit. You want to be careful when you slide these in. You're going to slide it up and then lock it in place. So I'm going to get you a side view here so you can kind of see what we're doing. Alright, so you can see what we're kind of doing here. Take your piece, slide it up in here. And you want to find your little hooks in the back. You also want to make sure about the bottom half of your shifter lever here. Make sure that that's in all the way. Just want to make sure that feeds in. Once you got that fed in, then you want to make sure you got your hooks hooked in back here. You'll know when they're hooked because this thing will pull forward. Alright, now we got it hooked. We can snap it together. And see, we got that piece right there we got to deal with. See, that snaps right in like that. That snaps in like that. And take a look at your handiwork real quick. See, it snaps right in when you get it right. See that? Everything lines up. We don't have any unsightly gaps. See that? It's best to do this with the steering wheel off. You can do it with the steering wheel on. Problem you're going to have is getting it to line up just right. So it's always a good idea if you have to do anything on the column, like, I don't know, any kind of ignition switch work where you have to drop, you know, one of these, take steering wheel off. Save yourself a lot of problems that way. Put our tilt wheel control back on. Snap that back together. Now we can put our steering wheel back on. So to do that, we need to feed our wires through the bottom hole of the steering wheel and get it lined back up on the splines. Okay, kind of use this as your center. Then you're going to take this, I'll show you how this works. This is your horn control. So what you got to do is you got to feed it through the hole, push it all the way down, rotate it to the right 90 degrees, and try to see if you can get it to catch. Sometimes you can get it to catch like right there, and then you rotate it just slightly and it comes right back out. So you want to kind of snap it in place like that. You see how the arrow lines up with the wire? That's how you know you got it right. All right, and we got our wiring here that we need to take care of in just a minute. We got to put our bolt back, or our nut back on. Spin this down till it gets hard to turn. Then you can use your socket and come in here and finish turning it. It's going to get harder and harder to turn. It's supposed to. If you ever take this off and it's not hard to turn, replace the nut, because the nut has been rounded out too much on the inside and it's not going to tighten down. Now if you had a regular ratchet, this works better. Since I don't have my regular ratchet with me, I put my knee up against it to hold it still, and I take my ratchet and I just kind of bring it down about a little bit. We're going to tighten it down real quick so you can see what it looks like here. Tighten this down real quick like this. Hold it with one hand, tighten it with the other. Try not to round the nut off when you do it. All right, steering wheel's on. All right, let me show you how the airbag works. All right, airbag sitting face up. You always want it face up. And then you want to rotate it like this so that you can get the connections back on. These are keyed. See the different shapes on the plugs? That is to prevent you from putting them in the wrong holes, and it also prevents you from putting them in the wrong positions. So what you have to do is you have to line up the pin. We have to turn the airbag around. Turn the airbag around here to where we got the caution label up, where you can see. This one plugs in over here, snaps in like that, and then this one here comes over. You gotta kind of scoot it up a little bit so the line will reach. Put that one in too. All right, our airbag is connected. Rotate it around. Take the pins, put them in that hole right there like this. Push it till it clicks. Your airbag's in. Your switch is changed. You are done. Next thing you'll do is you'll plug the battery back in. You'll test your functions, make sure your functions work. Now, if doing all this does not solve your problem, so let's say you have the problem that this truck has, where changing the switch, the wipers still don't function right. Well, then the problem wasn't the switch. It's in the wiper module. Other than that, I think we're done. I'm not going to test it because I know this switch worked fine. So I'm going to take this other switch back, and I'll see you here shortly.